next missionary skill is engaging tribes. Now, one of the most influential understandings to missionary thought is that people everywhere are tribal. Now, when you hear the word tribe, you probably think of an indigenous group out in the wilderness. You know, they lived in thatched roof huts. Those certainly are tribes. But when we talk about tribes in this sense, we probably are talking about something more like an urban social tribe. It's this idea that people naturally group themselves into social groupings that make a huge difference in the lives of every individual. Anymore, people don't think of themselves as individuals. They think of themselves as members of some sort of group, some sort of collective, and they identify with others in the group. So these tribes are everywhere, and everyone that you meet is in some way connected to at least one, but probably more than one, tribe. So what does that look like? Well, a tribe is a social grouping where a person really gets their sense of identity. It's where they decide, this is us, we are us. And they define themselves against them, whoever they are. So there's this sense of us versus them. That's a tribe. Now, when you look at a tribe, you see a group of people and they spend time together. Whether it's in person or virtually, they spend time together. They focus on each other. They interact with each other. And they do that a lot more than they do with others. So they focus on interaction within the tribe. The tribe also has a sense of identity and personality. This is what we are like. Sometimes tribes have their own language. It's not always a foreign language. Sometimes it's just their lingo that they use, but it reflects how they see the world, the way that they talk about themselves, the way they talk about others and the world around them. So they have their own lingo, their own language. They usually have their own uniform. Now, it doesn't always mean like an actual uniform, but the way they dress, it means something. There's sort of rules to what lets you get into a tribe and what keeps you out of a tribe. And there are usually people in the tribe who kind of serve the function of maintaining the membership. In other words, they're the gatekeepers. They say, look, this will get you in the tribe, but this will get you kicked out of the tribe. So tribes have rules for engagement, rules for behavior. Tribes have leaders. You know, we talked just a little bit ago about the person of peace, and more often than not, a person of peace has influence in their tribe of people. It's their network. And usually a person of peace, because of their status in the group, what they say carries more weight than what others in the group might say. Tribes tend to function a little bit like the cliques that you maybe remember from high school. Everyone can relate to when you walk into the cafeteria in a high school, you see all the groups and all the different tables. And just because there's an open table doesn't mean you can sit there, because tribes or cliques or social groups kind of claim different parts of the cafeteria. And as you walk in, you can see distinct groups circled up across the cafeteria. We naturally, as human beings, were created for community. So this makes sense. We identify and relate with, we want to spend time with people who are like us, people we have things in common with. But what that means is we identify with some and less so with others. So we as a society are fragmented, right? We're separated, we're isolated from one another. And the internet makes this isolation even greater because the tribal conversation happens 24 hours a day. So part of our tribal affiliation is at war with our other affiliations. You have people who move to a big city and completely forget about their families back home. We have college students who go away to school and leave their friends behind from high school and others, and they dissociate from that group. They choose a new tribe. And a lot of times, the college experience is really a reinvention of oneself. It's where I say, look, I'm going to reject the tribe that I came from, the community that I came from, and look for a new tribe to join. So these tribes are dynamic. They're changing. You can't just pigeonhole someone and say, you're in that tribe now and forever, because these things can change. Here's what that means. As we interact with individuals, we can't just think of them as individuals. We have to think of them as representatives of a community, a network of people. So they're not just one person, they're representatives of a group. So we're interacting with individuals, but we're really interacting with their tribe. This has profound implications for ministry. Because what it means is the old approach of finding individuals and confronting them with the gospel, saying, do you know for sure that if you died tonight, you'd go to heaven? Is actually asking them to do something that they're not really wired to do. You see, maybe in the old days, we could confront someone and they would sort of be able to process this new information of the gospel in a way that they could understand and respond to. But anymore, society sort of works differently. Now, tribes function by having tribe members go out into the world and learn new things. Maybe they're on social media and they see new information or they hear about something. And really what they do is they bring that new information back to the tribe. And they say, together as a small community, what do we think about this? What do we believe about this? And it's the context of that group where the processing is done, the thinking happens. And here's the thing, what the tribe thinks, the members think. And so often we end up working against the heavy influence of a tribe when we try to interact with an individual and share the gospel with them. Now, there are times where God opens the opportunity for us to share the gospel with individuals. Take that opportunity. But what we don't want is an evangelism and a discipleship method that cuts people off from their tribe. You can see the challenges when we share the gospel in a way that then brings someone into our circles, into our churches, into our ministries, in a way that cuts them off from their old friends. The problem is then it's much easier to disciple them, but then we have to go to the extra added effort of training them to relate to lost people, the very people that they once related to. And so we have to be careful to leave those connections intact. Why? Well, think about what a tribe is. They meet together regularly. They have leaders and rule keepers. They have rules about behavior. They have what makes you in and what keeps you out. They have members that will gather new information and teach the rest of the group. What does this sound like? Does that sound familiar? It should. Now, tribes function very much the way a church should. Now, I'm not saying that every tribe is a church, but think about this. If instead of seeing individuals in groups and those groups as a barrier to the gospel, what if we were to start to think, this tribe is a church waiting to happen? So now, instead of discipling individuals on our terms and in our structures, we go to great lengths to disciple people where they are, in the context of their tribe, so that everything that we give them, everything that we teach them to obey all that Jesus taught us. They then can turn around and process that new information and teach the rest of their social group. Man, that would have profound impact on ministry. When we recognize that individuals aren't just individuals, they are representatives of social groupings, then we can start to see how discipleship of individuals is actually discipleship of groups. And we can see groups of people coming to faith, learning more about Jesus and what it means to follow him. We can see lives transformed, and now Christ on display among an entire group of people, and that's our goal. So more and more as God's people engage individuals, we're engaging tribes, and identifying and engaging tribes is a missionary skill that takes some doing, but once you get used to it, you can start to lean into those social groupings and see the value in keeping those relationships intact.